When something bad happens to a city or a town, sometimes it takes a few days to figure out exactly how bad it was. It takes a few days for people to all set a spell, get on the phone, get on the emails, and start asking each other this question. What the hell just happened to our town? Well, that's what they're asking in Biloxi, Panama City, a couple of other places on the Gulf Coast this week, following last week's Black Spring Break weekend.
In 2017, Biloxi's Black Beach weekend drew in a crowd that was estimated to be somewhere between 60 to 75,000 people, doubling last year's attendance and far exceeding expectations. With those large crowds converging on the stretch of beach between the Coast Coliseum and Edgewater Mall, most of Highway 90 was at a gridlock for the weekend. Many residents have voiced displeasure over the headache caused on the highways during this event. But with such large numbers packed into a concentrated area, major traffic delays are unavoidable.
The traffic is always an issue, and we're working kind of an after-action plan to figure out how we best can address this for these numbers. Again, expecting 35,000, we wind up with 60 or even more than that as far as volume. The volume always brings, more challenges.
There were also several instances across the city. Biloxi Police Department reported 166 traffic stops and 46 arrests over the 3-day period, including 5 arrests that stemmed from an altercation involving popular recording artist Lil Boosie inside of Dillard's at Edgewater Mall. But Major Jim Adamo says that the majority of the spring breakers were well behaved.
I want to say, first and foremost, that the majority of the people that were here were absolutely phenomenal. We had very little issues with them whenever we would ask them to do or not do something. They were compliant.
Anytime you get, a large crowd, you're going to have a couple bad apples. But I will say, at our, organized events, the shows, the car show, the concerts, the kickoff parties or whatever, for the amount of people that were attending, we didn't have any, major issues. Everything went smoothly.
Neighborhood in fear, residents worried for their safety.
As spring break winds down, anger is building, and it's not likely that things will calm down anytime soon.
I see them everywhere. Please get out of my yard.
Tina Grantham is upset. This year's spring break may have been the biggest, but for her, it was the worst.
It's really upsetting because they never used to come on this street. And they never used to go on that street back there, and they're upsetting the whole neighborhood. And I want some protection because I can't go through this every year. I'm not going through it every year anymore.
Her home on Pine Grove Avenue is just yards away from one of the biggest gatherings for spring breakers in Biloxi. When she checked on her home Saturday, people were barbecuing in her front yard.
And my husband didn't want to cause a problem with the people. He figured if we would call the cops, it would make everybody mad. And so we just left crying and upset.
Neighbors in the Briarville subdivision are upset that spring breakers have begun to spread their party into their neighborhood with intersections blocked and streets trashed.
We're a prisoner in our own house. I mean, I couldn't even get out, can't get in, so, what can we do? We're stuck.
Sue Stone says she was worried this year.
In the past, they've been pretty reasonable, but this has been scary this year. We don't have any problems with anyone having fun, but, have some respect for the people that have to stay here.
I don't mind if it's down on the coast. Everybody's allowed to enjoy the beach. I love it down here. I enjoy the beach, but we shouldn't be blocked into our neighborhood feeling threatened.
During the height of the spring break activities, Eisenhower Drive was impassable. Tanya Garrity, who lives in an apartment complex there, was frightened. Not for her, but for her husband, a recent transplant patient who needs regular hospital care.
If I'd had to rush him back to the hospital, it wouldn't have happened. He would have had to stay here. He would have died here.
Junior Gillette finds himself immersed in some controversy again. According to ESPN, Gillette was arrested Friday night in Biloxi, Mississippi when he got into a fight and was charged with disorderly conduct and failure to comply. Up until this point, Gillette has been able to avoid trouble since a January 2015 domestic violence arrest that led to a 2-game suspension while with the Saints. 6 months later, he was released by the team after a video surfaced of Gillette hitting a woman with a belt. The Redskins signed the linebacker and have signed him to 3 consecutive 1-year contracts, although he has yet to play due to injury.
Nationally known rapper Lil Boosie, a.k.a. Boosie Badass, he was in Biloxi to headline a show. at the local convention center, but he and the fellas went downtown to do a little shopping on Saturday. They got into a little bit of a tussle with one of the quote-unquote loss prevention specialists, who ended up pulling out some pepper spray and spraying him right in the face. You'll see a video of that in a minute. Except Lil Boozy took it to another level when he said, okay, you arrested my crew, 5 guys, you arrested them. Okay, 3 felonies, assault, 1 for carrying a stolen gun. Okay, that is what it is. But you dudes, the cops, took $1 million worth of jewelry from me, Lil Boozy. Cops say that never happened.
I don't understand what's going on. That's what's wrong with y'all ass right now.
Down in Panama Beach, which is a couple hundred miles down the road, 9 people were arrested after they were involved in a shooting there. Okay, all about the Black Spring Break Beach weekend. And outside of Panama Beach, in a little town, a couple little towns, one of them's called Walton Beach and Seacrest. The only reason I remember Seacrest because I think it's actually named after Ryan Seacrest. Anyway, those towns, they put on an emergency 8 p.m. curfew prior to Black Beach Week because the partying, the black criminality was getting so wild and so unusual there. They said, no, I think we'll stop this before we add some more fuel to this fire.
Parts of 30A seem like they've been taken over by hundreds of teenagers. Some say they're wreaking havoc on several communities. As News Channel 7's Danielle Ellis tells us, residents and business owners are trying to find ways to keep them under control.
30A has traditionally been a family spring break destination, bringing kids of all ages. But one age group seems to be causing some issues in some of the smaller communities.
It really started last year. We saw big groups of teenagers.
The mobs of kids are just gathering. It's a little unruly for the business owners, and unfortunately the police have to get involved.
You know, there'd be hundreds of them. Last year we saw a group of about 1,000 out on the beach just wandering from one place to another, and that's continued on to this year.
This week, Seacrest Beach, Rosemary Beach, and the villages of South Walton have enacted an emergency curfew, hoping to disperse the large groups of young people.
Although it's only for a couple more days, residents and business owners say that this emergency curfew is necessary.
I think the emergency curfew is a great thing. It's bad for business, but it's only here another day, and it's just to keep everyone safe.
When you have so many people down at one time, it just helps you feel like perhaps there's some control.
We have seen some, or heard some vandalism with stolen bikes happening at night and that kind of thing. But I'd say those are the biggest problems.
You know, we just can't have 400, 500, 600 kids walking the streets, and the police are working overtime.
But many of the visiting teens are not thrilled about the new rule.
Well, I think it's really dumb because we all paid to be here and they're making us leave, and we're all here to go on the beach and they're making us leave the beach, and it's just really annoying.
I think it's too early and that they're ruining everyone's spring break.
Well, I've already heard there's some kids, a lot of kids from our school that are down here at the moment, and I know that some of them have already gotten in trouble with police actually because they've been out late on the beach.
I hope everyone comes back. Just be kind, be courteous, enjoy yourselves. We live at the best place in the world down here on 30A.
Reporting from 30A, Danielle Ellis, News Channel 7.
Seaside put a similar curfew in place at the beginning of spring break and say they are pleased with the outcome.
A few miles up the road, outside of Jackson, 9 black people were arrested on their way to Black Beach Week. They were caught in a roadblock. Their folks said the only reason they were arrested was because they were black, and they didn't do nothing.
Parents and others concerned about a roadblock in Simpson County, they argued that students were targeted while heading to the Gulf Coast for an event known as Black Spring Break. The families claimed they were arrested for minor infractions like not wearing a seatbelt or being in possession of liquor in a dry county.
3 on your side spoke with Simpson County Sheriff Donald O'Kane, who tells us the roadblocks are conducted every month and they were not picking on anybody. He noted there wasn't a sign on Old Highway 49 that read "Notice, K9 checkpoint a mile ahead," but says they only locked up people for major issues like drugs or DUI.
Once reporters came up for air and started reminding us exactly what had happened during this Black Beach week that descended on their town, some of the locals were saying that the week was getting so bad it was destroying their town. Some of the reporters took a slightly more sanguine view of it. My favorite came from Doug Walker. I think he's, where is he? Forget his call signs. Anyway, Doug gave us a little wrap up on the event, and he assured us that anytime you have 60,000 people together, well, there's going to be some problems.
The Highway 90 got jammed once again late Sunday morning and into Sunday afternoon. That's a difference from last year. But again, anytime you have 60,000 people attending an event, there are going to be some problems, and that's what Biloxi police and city officials are going to be looking at, those problems and how they can be solved in future years.
In this case, those problems included 1,041 calls for police service in Biloxi, resulting in 46 arrests. To say that whenever you get 60,000 people together, there are going to be problems, the kind that they experienced in Biloxi last weekend, that's kind of a version of white people do it too, which of course just isn't true. Not anywhere near the proportion of black criminality we see at large events. What about the Masters right up the road? 45,000 people a day for a week, same time period. Tens of thousands of pimento and cheese sandwiches served. Tens of thousands of azaleas planted and appreciated. There wasn't even one complaint of somebody raising their voice at the wrong time. Ditto for and it's not just the Masters, ditto for NASCAR, ditto for the Indy 500. Ditto for your average country western concert. These are events where nobody's using a wand to metal detector to see if anybody's carrying guns in. Nobody's getting shot. Nobody's going to the hospital. No one's getting robbed. Which sets it, and of course the black mob violence in these large events isn't just Black Spring Break Week in Biloxi. What about Black Beach Week in Miami Beach? What about Black Bike Week in Myrtle Beach? What about the Halfway Run, which is the Black Bike Week on the West Coast? What about Indiana Black Expo in Indianapolis? You know, the Black Expo and Black Beach Week in Miami Beach, for the last couple of years, they've been kind of calmed down because they've turned both of those cities into armed camps during the large-scale black events there. Helicopters, light towers, dogs, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cops, license plate readers. Lots of other places don't want to do that. Biloxi doesn't want to do that. They want to be welcoming to all the fellas when they come down to destroy their town again, which is what the plan is for the year 2018. Because we know calling out the black people in Biloxi and other places for the way they left a mountain of trash and a mountain of criminality in their wake in Biloxi and other places, well, we know what that would do. That would make the black kids angry.